On the morning of February 19, 1945, as the gray light crept over the Pacific, the first wave of Marines moved toward a strip of land that looked more like the surface of another world than a battlefield. The island ahead was black, silent, and motionless. Smoke from days of naval bombardment drifted low across the volcanic ridges, and from a distance, there was no sign that anyone lived there at all. Lieutenant Colonel James Kennard stood inside a landing craft, watching the shoreline through a slit in the steel ramp, listening to the engine struggle against the surf. Around him, men checked weapons again and again, even though they had already done so a dozen times. No one spoke much. They had been told this would be another hard landing, like those before. But none of them yet understood that this island would not fight like any other. The ramp dropped, and the sound of war rushed in all at once. Machine guns opened from somewhere unseen. Mortar rounds began falling with terrible precision. Men ran forward and then fell without warning. Private First Class Robert Martinez sprinted up the black sand, boots sinking with every step as if the island itself were trying to swallow him. The sand was hot, coarse, and unstable, making movement slow and exhausting. The air smelled of sulfur and fuel. Behind him, more Marines poured onto the beach, while ahead, the slopes remained eerily quiet. There were no trenches. No obvious bunkers. No charging soldiers. Just the steady, methodical rhythm of hidden guns. Within minutes, Kennard realized something was terribly wrong. Every lesson learned across the Pacific suddenly felt useless. The enemy did not reveal itself. When Marines fired at flashes on a ridge, the fire stopped. When artillery pounded suspected positions, nothing changed. Targets appeared for seconds and then vanished. Radio men reported the same confusion up and down the line. No confirmed kills. No clear positions. It felt as if the island itself was alive, striking and then going still again. The architect of this nightmare was General Tadamichi Kuribayashi. Unlike previous commanders, he had forbidden suicidal charges and traditional beach defenses. Instead, he ordered his soldiers underground. For months, they had carved tunnels through the volcanic rock, connecting bunkers, caves, and hidden firing points across the entire island. They lived below the surface, moving silently through darkness while American bombers destroyed only empty ground above. Kuribayashi knew he could not win. But he believed he could make the cost unbearable. Captain Eugene Sledge watched the first cave assault unfold with growing dread. His demolition teams had trained for this. They had done it on other islands. Flamethrowers would burn the entrance, explosives would collapse the bunker, and infantry would clear the survivors. But here, nothing worked. When one cave was destroyed, fire erupted from another. When they cleared a position, it came alive again hours later. It was as if the defenders simply dissolved into the ground and returned whenever they wished. Days passed, and the advance slowed to yards at a time. Exhaustion and fear spread through the ranks. Marines whispered that the island could not be taken. Some began to believe the defenders were everywhere and nowhere. At night, Japanese soldiers emerged from hidden openings, cutting communication lines, attacking supply dumps, and vanishing again before dawn. No one slept deeply. Every sound in the darkness felt like the beginning of another attack. Kennard walked the lines, forcing himself to remain calm. He had seen combat before. He understood fear. But this was something different. His men were not losing because they were outgunned. They were losing because they could not see the enemy. War without visibility was war without control. He knew that unless something changed, the battle would grind on until his regiment was destroyed. The breakthrough began quietly. Staff Sergeant William Chen had been watching the enemy for weeks. He noticed something simple that others had missed. The Japanese were not defending positions. They were defending movement. Whenever Marines attacked, defenders withdrew through tunnels and reappeared somewhere else. The strength of the defense was not the bunkers or the caves. It was the network connecting them. Chen brought the idea to Kennard one evening as stretchers passed through the command post. Instead of clearing caves, what if they sealed them? Not temporarily. Permanently. Cut the tunnels. Trap the defenders. Remove their ability to move. The idea was radical. It went against everything the Marines had practiced. But Kennard understood its logic immediately. The next morning, Chen's squad tried it. Flamethrowers cleared the entrance. Explosives collapsed interior passages. Engineers filled the opening with rock, steel, and concrete. It was dangerous work, done under sniper fire, but when it was finished, the cave fell silent. Hours passed. No fire returned. For the first time, the Marines had removed a position permanently. Word spread quickly. Units began requesting engineers instead of assault teams. Cave after cave was sealed. Japanese defenders trapped underground attempted desperate breakouts, exposing themselves to overwhelming firepower. Positions that had dominated the battlefield for weeks disappeared in hours. The psychological effect was dramatic. Intercepted communications revealed growing panic. Soldiers feared burial alive more than death in battle. The battle changed. Instead of reacting, the Marines began controlling the fight. They advanced faster. Casualties dropped. The network that had made the island invincible became a prison. Kuribayashi's masterpiece was turning against him. But victory came at a cost. Marines heard voices behind concrete seals. Digging. Scratching. Calls for help. The sounds continued for days, then faded. Many carried those memories long after the war ended. By late March, resistance collapsed. The final caves lay at the northern tip of the island. Kennard watched as engineers prepared the last sealing operations. There were few defenders left, but they fought with desperate courage, emerging from tunnels to die in the open rather than underground. The final assault was brief and violent. When it ended, silence returned to the island. The wind moved across black sand and shattered rock. The guns stopped. For the first time in weeks, there was no fire. Kennard stood looking across the Pacific, feeling neither triumph nor relief. The island was secure. The mission accomplished. But the cost was written everywhere around him. The battlefield had taught new lessons about warfare, adaptation, and survival. It had also revealed the terrible weight of innovation, the burden carried by those who must find new ways to win. In the years that followed, the battle became a case study in military academies around the world. Tunnel warfare, psychological pressure, and adaptability would shape future conflicts. But for the men who fought there, the memory was not theory. It was personal. The smell of sulfur. The sound of digging in the darkness. The silence that followed. And long after the war ended, many veterans said the same thing. They had not just fought an army. They had fought the island itself.